Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon to all the students. Today I will be talking about the chapter number 6 in the topic of society and unity. So we focus on 4 subtopics. Number 1 is about ethnic compositions in Malay Peninsula. Number 2 is unity and national integration. Number 3 is Rukun Negara as an ideology. And number 4 is about religion, beliefs, and language. We'll start with the subtopic ethnic composition. As you all can see in the picture, the main race in the Malay Peninsula, even now, is only 3 major races. Number 1 is Malay, to form the majority of the populations of Malaysia nowadays. Number 2 is Chinese, and number 3 is Indians. This happened actually before the discovery of tin ores in 1848. There were a group of Chinese and Indians came to the Malay Peninsula, especially in Malacca, as traders, where they attracted by economic opportunities, strategic trade routes, the Straits of Malacca, of course, and coastal locations. Their presence contributed to cultural and economic exchanges, but it appears that significant settlement was limited during that time. So before the discovery of tin ores in 1848, only small number of Indians and Chinese came to Malay Peninsula, and Indian came as a worker in a coffee and sugarcane plantations, especially in Penang and Seberang Perai. The migration was driven by economic opportunities, where the British colonial labour practice and the specific needs of the plantation economies. The indentured labour system played a role, and the historical ties between India and the British colonial empire influenced the movement of people for labour purposes. The migration reflected broader trends of labour movement during the colonial period, where different regions supplied labour to meet the demands of emerging industries. But the major populations of the Malay Peninsula at that time, surely the Malays. The Malays had a rich cultural heritage, engaged in activities like agricultural and trades, and played a vital role in regional trade networks. The Malay society was organized around villages mainly, and led by local chiefs, and influenced, of course, by Islamic traditions due to the arrivals of the Arab traders during the Malacca Empire. The subsequent influx of Chinese laborers due to the tin discovery in 1848 and marked a significant demographic shift, leading to the coexistence of Chinese Malay and indigenous communities in the region. So what happened in the mid of 19th centuries? In the mid of 19th centuries, we can see the influx of Chinese and Indian immigrants to Malaya as a result of British colonialism. The British colonial authorities sought to meet labor demands, especially in industries like tin mining and rubber plantations. So by bringing in a substantial numbers of Chinese and Indian laborers to the Malay Peninsula. So this changed the original demographic structure of the Malay Peninsula. The arrival of large number of Chinese and Indian immigrants had a profound impact on the demographic structure of the Malay Peninsula. The demographic composition became more diverse as these immigrant communities settled alongside the existing Malay population. The Malays in the pre-colonial time period, the economic activity mainly were trading, fishing, farming, collecting forest produce, and the traditional Malay village located mainly around rivers. Then after colonial period, the economic activity changed to agriculture, where the details about it is foreign labor from new township and the bulk of migrant confined to the new town. And the British not encourage the Malay to participate in the modern economic sector under excuse to preserve Malay culture and traditions. How about the Chinese? Okay, the Chinese during the pre-colonial period, they are traders, okay, especially in the Malacca Empire. But there are not so many. The only small number of the Chinese came as traders to Malay Peninsula in the pre-colonial era. And the colonial era, their economic activities for the Chinese changed to laborers, miners, artisans, shopkeepers, and farmers, because the British encouraged the entry of Chinese laborers by law. So a large number of Chinese came and settled in Malay Peninsula at that time. So this development and support enabled the emergence of new settlement and township, especially in the big cities, the town areas. So the Indians in the pre-colonial era, they are also traders, because they came as a traders to Malacca Empire as a gold miners, and they spread the Hinduism and Buddhism in the archipelago as early relationship of India and Malay Peninsula. So after the era of colonialism, they changed to the economic activities as a plantations, estates laborers, and those who voluntarily migrate to estate and plantations. Those who forced to migrate, built bridge, roads, railways, and government buildings, and most of them are a rubber taper. So we can see the ethnic populations you can see in the picture there. Then the blue color is representing the Malays or the Bumiputras. Bumiputras and Malay is the Malay populations, and the Bumiputras form together with the locals, Aborigines peoples in Sabah and Sarawak, and also in Peninsular Malaysia. So the orange color representing Chinese, and the grey color is Indians and others. Okay, we go to the unity and national integrations. What are the challenges in building a nation state? The British concept of divide and rule policy was caused segregation among ethnic groups in Malaysia. So most of the Malays live in rural area, the village sector. A small portion only live in town, and mostly work as a lower rank staff, such as a clerk. So most of the Chinese live in town or the mining areas, and most of the Indians were placed in estates. This led to segregations also in the education system. And then the Malays suffered the lack of economic development, whereas Chinese enjoyed the modernization. But still, the Chinese and Indians unhappy with the rigidity of the terms and conditions pertaining to citizenship. And you can see in the picture the Malaya town mostly confined by the Chinese community. It happened up to now. And then the challenge came in 1969. They called it the tragedy, the crisis law in May 13, 1969, racial riot. The May 13, 1969 racial riot refers to a violent clash between the Malays and Chinese communities in Kuala Lumpur and surrounding areas, particularly Selangor, and during a limited period of time. This incident resulted in official reports of 493 casualties, and this event had a profound impact, prompting a heightened awareness of unity-related issues and the need for serious considerations of national cohesion. And efforts towards achieving national unity and integration is to motivating citizens to migrate from one place to another. Consolidations of public services between all the states in Malaysia, to attend seminars and programs in Kuala Lumpur and other centers, develop business in other locations, expansions of the military and police force in certain territories. The uniformity of the education systems through the educational policies. You can say the Barnes Report 1950, the effort to make the education system more uniform, and they have to meet the report for Fenwu in 1951. They have the education ordinance in 1952, Razak Report 1956, Rahman Talib Report 1960, Cabinet Report 1979, and National Education Policy NEP to strengthen the uniformity of the education system in Malaysia. So this includes the role of mass media, where the Malaysia radio and television, RTM, and newspaper were used in nation building widely. This is to encourage understanding to various national values and symbols, and to ensure no dominations by the foreign media, especially from China and India, to shift the migrant extensions to Malaya. The economic integrations. We can see for the 5-year development programs, where there's a strategic plan designed to promote economic growth and development over a 5-year period, typically outlining key projects and initiatives. The new economic policy, or NEP, a Malaysian affirmative action plan introduced in 1971 to address economic imbalance and reduce poverty, with a focus on promoting the economic interests, especially for the Malays and other indigenous groups. The National Development Policy, subsequent policy framework that continued the goals of the NEP, emphasizing a balanced economic development and social justice. This is to ensure economic segregation, since colonializations would not remain. The overarching objectives of these policies was to ensure that economic disparities established during colonializations did not persist, aiming for a more equitable distribution of economic benefits among different segments of the populations. Uniting political principles. As one of the multi-ethnic countries, construction of a nation-state becomes the government's crucial agenda. After Malaysia achieved independence in 1957 and the formations of Malaysia in 1963, the first endeavor towards integrity was uniting political parties. Explicitly United Malay National Organizations, UMNO, Malaysia Chinese Association, MCA, and Malaysian Indian Congress, MIC. The constitutional framework, the nation's foundational principles outlined in the Constitution, contributed to political unity and shared governance, and the democracy system emphasis on democratic principles to ensure political participations and representation for all ethnic groups. And of course, One Malaysia concept introduced by our Malaysian Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak, aiming at promoting national unity by emphasizing commonalities among Malaysians irrespective of their ethnic backgrounds. And we go to the Rukun Negara as an ideology. Rukun Negara, or pillars of principles, as a strategy in strengthening unity. It was created after the racial riots in 13 May 1969. And the objectives of Rukun Negara are to achieve a strong sense of unity among community, to preserve the democratic way of life, to create a just society that enjoys prosperity in a fair and equitable manner, to create a liberal approach society towards respective cultures, to build a progressive society equipped with science and technology. So the principles of the Rukun Negara are, number one is to believe in God, a recognition and adherence to a belief in a higher power. Number two is loyalty to king and country, pledging allegiance and loyalty to the Malaysian monarch and the nation. Number three is a supremacy of the Constitution, acknowledging the paramount authority of the constitutions in governing the nation. Number four is about sovereignty of the law, where to upholding the rule of law as a fundamental principle, ensuring justice and equality. And the last one is courtesy and morality, to encourage a culture of politeness, to respect and ethical behavior within the society. We go to this, the last one is religion, beliefs, and language. What are the important things of the religions? Is a conscious of human dependence on the Almighty. Is to unite society, to distinguish between good and bad things, and denotes the success of a civilization. So in Malaysia, Islam is the official religion of the Federations of Malaysia. Islam is declared to official religions of the Federations of Malaysia. But other religions may be practiced in peace. While Islam holds the official status, the statement acknowledges the peaceful practice of other religions. Other religions cannot be propagated to Muslims. This is a restriction on actively promoting or propagating religions other than Islam to Muslims. And all religions have right to its financial affairs only. All religions are recognized and having the right to manage their financial affairs independently. And these principles reflect Malaysia's constitutional stance on religion. So religion in Malaysia, a part of Islam, they have Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, Hinduism, and Christianity. So the principles reflects Malaysia's constitutional stance on religions, aiming to uphold the status of Islam while allowing for the peaceful coexistence and practice of other religions within the country. Islam arrived in Malay world since 12th century. It is spread by the rules and missionaries through trade and marriage. In general, the Malay in Malaya or Peninsular Malaysia, Sabah and Sarawak are Muslims. Islam teach about God, that is the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and as the last prophet. The Quran and Hadith is the basis source of Islamic law. Buddhism arrived to the Malay world in 5th century. Founded by Siddhartha Gautama. It teaches about the Four Noble Truths through the Eightfold Path. The practice by the Chinese, also by the Thais in Kelantan, Kedah, and Perlis. Confucianism. It is more of teachings of philosophy held by some of the Chinese community in Malaysia. It founded by Confucius. It taught about moral, social philosophy, and the guidelines of behavior. The Taoisms, enriched by Confucianism teaching and helped to spread Buddhism. It is to provide spirit, inspirations, and moral guidance to the Chinese people. Most of the teachings inherited from the original teaching of Buddha, such as the Trinity beliefs towards the three pure ones and the belief in heaven and hell. The Hinduism, the majority of Hindus are from the Indian community. The Indian community learned local values and culture in Malaya and continued their practice, their own cultures and customs. The elements in Hinduism are belief in supreme being, the concept of karma and reincarnation, the Vedas, the four sacred books. And Christianity arrived in Malacca together with the Dutch arrivals in 1511. They believed to doctrine of the Trinity. The cross symbolized Jesus Christ, the faith of Christianity. It arrived together with the Portuguese and followed by Dutch. The arrival of Portuguese in 1511 and Dutch is in later period of time, in 16 something. Mostly made up of the Chinese, Indians, and Eurasians. The Christianity, the Christian believers in Malaysia nowadays are mostly made up of the Chinese, Indians, Eurasians, the orang asli, and the indigenous people of Sabah and Sarawak. You go to the language. The official and national language of Malaysia is Bahasa Malaysia. It refers to Bahasa Melayu actually, but we call it Bahasa Malaysia. A standard Malay is often a second language following use of a local Malay dialects. The standard language is promoted as a unifying symbol for the nation across all ethnicities. There are 10 dialects of Malay used throughout Malaysia according to state and sub-ethnic. If you want to learn a little bit about the Malay language, I think you can start with a simple words, simple sentence. Simple daily questions like how are you? How are you is apa khabar? How are you? Apa khabar? You meet me? Apa khabar Dr. Nizam? How are you Dr. Nizam? Okay. Can you help me? Boleh saya minta tolong? Ataupun bolehkah awak tolong saya? Can you help me? Okay, then thank you. Thank you is terima kasih. It's very simple words then it is daily use. Okay, then I'm sorry. I'm sorry is saya minta maaf. Saya minta maaf. And see you again is jumpa lagi. Okay? See you again, jumpa lagi. See you again next week. Jumpa lagi minggu hadapan. Okay. So that's simple daily question. Maybe it's not really questions. It's a daily routine sentence. So English is widely understood and spoken in service industries, especially in Malaysia. So then it is a compulsory subject in primary and secondary schools in Malaysia. And it is also the main language spoken in most private colleges and universities. And English may take precedence over Malay in certain official contexts, as provided for the National Language Act, especially in the states of Sabah and Sarawak, where it may be the official working language. Okay. The Mandarin most widely spoken forms among Malaysian Chinese, but it's the lingua franca for Chinese who speak mutually unintelligible varieties. The Mandarin is also the language of instructions in Chinese schools, an important language in business. But most of the Chinese, they speak other than Mandarins daily. That's in actual fact. Okay, they speak Hokkien and other types of language. But in the school, they have to learn the Mandarin language. So the Tamil is used predominantly by the Indians, okay, who form a majority of Malaysian Indians. The Tamils is the biggest majority of Malaysian Indians. The Tamil is becoming less common among the more highly educated Tamil population, being predominantly replaced by English, and in a minority by Bahasa Malaysia. Since Bahasa Malaysia is the national language, so everyone, be it the Chinese or Indians or Eurasians or other than Malays in Malaysia, they can speak Bahasa Melayu or they can speak Bahasa Malaysia. So usage of Tamil remains common among who often continue to live in their own communities on or near plantations or in urban squatter settlements. So the Jawi calligraph, the writings of Jawi, they developed from the advent of Islam in Malay world, supplanting the earlier Brahmic scripts used during the Hindu-Buddhist era. The oldest evidence of Jawi writing can be found on the 14th century Terengganu inscription stone, recorded in classical Malay language that contains a mixture of Malay, Sanskrit, and Arabic vocabularies. The ensuing trade expansions and the spread of Islam to the areas of Southeast Asia from the 15th century had brought Jawi alphabet beyond the traditional Malay-speaking world. Until 20th century, Jawi remained as the standard script of the Malay language. You know, this is the state of Johor. Every one of the Johorians, they have to go to the Islamic schools, and they use Jawi writing as the main way of writing to answer the questions, to copy anything that the teachers give to them. So all the Malays, you can say that all the Malays in Johor especially, they can write Jawi up to now. So I born in Johor, I can write Jawi. Okay, with the arrivals of Western influence through colonialization and education, Jawi was relegated to scripts for religious education, with the Malay language eventually adopting the Latin alphabet called Rumi in general usage. So last time we used to read in Jawi. That was way back to 1970s, 80s, and I think in the mid of 80s, most of the newspapers was replaced by the Latin alphabet. We call it Rumi in the general use. That's all for this week, and see you again next week. Jumpa lagi minggu depan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye bye.